of Protoss play. Usually Protoss has 3 different tech trees is the way that people talk about it. You can skip all the tech trees if you want to do a very very early attack like a 4 gate or do some sort of quick expand into like 6 or 7 gates. And usually those tend to be all-ins based around some sort of timing. I spelled Twilight wrong, I apologize. The Twilight Council, you need to do some sort of like blink timing. So a lot of times you'll see people who go for blink stalkers, and because the stalkers have very little DPS, they tend to fall behind. So a lot of times what they do is they rush the damage on the stalkers so that even though they have the lower DPS, they can up that DPS and have a very strong attack. Hi, Ann Peterson 3. Nice to meet you. So the second tech tree is called the Robotics Facility. It's traditionally built around either Immortals, Colossus, or Warp Prisms. And so Immortal all in, the attack usually comes around 8:39 minutes. The Colossus play usually the attack comes around 11 minutes to 11:30 to 12 minutes. And Warp Prism play, the attack comes fairly quickly, usually around 7:38 minutes. Those are sort of the timings that they come at. Now Stargate play is the third tech tree. Usually it's based around an early harass style to buy them time so they can get more expansions. Stargates, usually the builds are somewhere along the lines of an Oracle harass, a Phoenix harass, or Voids and Tempests as sort of a strong unit follow-up. So when Protoss players play, these are what you're looking for when you're scouting. If they get the gases around 6:37 minutes, it's usually either a robotics play or Stargate play, and if they get their gases later, it's usually some sort of gate all in or some sort of Twilight Council play. And that's part of the reason why I split them up this way. So when you watch people play on streams, you'll notice that they scout the gases around 6:37 minutes. That's what they're trying to decide, is whether it's going to be some sort of tech play like robotics or Stargate, or some sort of really, really strong attack or early attack timing based around the Twilight Council. So the Zerg dilemma, which is I actually think that it is the most interesting part of StarCraft. Zerg, in my opinion, is the biggest reason why StarCraft is different from other RTSs. Most RTSs, all the players sort of have similar income, similar unit build times. The unit strengths stay fairly similar. Most RTSs also have, once you get out higher tier units, you can just win the game. If the other side doesn't have higher tier units, and usually there's only 1 or 2 sort of best builds that almost always win. And the last part is that most games sort of don't have sort of an idea that you have a race that if you don't deal with them, that they are going to win you. StarCraft breaks all of these molds with Zerg. Zerg is designed entirely around macroing really heavy early on and getting lots and lots of units and staying ahead macro-wise. And it's the job of the Terran or the Protoss to figure out how to keep them from getting too far ahead. So traditionally Zerg, where they want to stay is if they want to stay 5 workers ahead per base. So if the Terran is on one base and he's at about 22 workers, the Zerg wants to be able to get up to about 28-30. If the Terran has 65 workers off 3 bases with mules, the Zerg is going to shoot to try and be close to 83 to 85 workers. 2.5 bases is Terran, which usually is around 55, 60 workers. They're going to shoot to be around 70 workers. If they're on 2 bases and they're at 45, usually it's around 55 for Zerg. So Zerg, the trick is to keep them from getting these drone counts that they're trying to get to and getting far ahead of where you're at in terms of the game. Okay? So the Zerg tech trees, again, Zerg has hard counters, so you always consider what it is that the Terran is doing, and you pick a hard counter for it. So you might say they're playing Bio, so this would be an anti-Bio army, would be the Mutaling Bane army, which is Mutalisks, Zerglings, and Banelings. If they're going Colossus and Void Rays, you'll see lots of players go Corruptors and Roaches. Versus Ling Infestor Ultra, versus Robos and Marine Widowmines, you'll see a lot of times players go Ling Infestor Ultras. Versus Stargate play, sometimes you'll just see them just max on Roaches and go attack. Versus some sort of, Stalker, Void, Colossus, these sort of mass mixed armies with Protoss or with Terran. A lot of times you'll see Roach, Hydra, Viper, and there are ways that they can sort of break them. You have the swarm hosts, which keep spawning units. They're very, very anti-mech, anti-air. And then there's the anti-tank Viking Raven army, where you have sort of mutas and vipers and swarm hosts and queens. But all this I'm not going to go into in detail today. If you're looking for more specific resources, these are some places that you can go and look for information. SC2 Ranks is where you can look up, kind of figure out how people are doing. The people that are good on the ladder, figure out how they play. TeamLiquid.net is a site where they have all these streams where you can look at the players. Day 9 is a streamer who gives lots. He'll go over one specific build in the game and sort of look at how it's done, or pick one aspect of the game and go over it. And he's done several hundred videos. He's very popular in terms of tutorials. There's YouTube tutorials. I like all of Apollo's tutorials. There's Fenner's is another person who does good Zerg tutorials. Desro Fighting has good Protoss tutorials, and Winter has good Terran tutorials. And there's also Community SC2, which has, I think, some of the better Terran tutorials on the net. And usually, if you want to kind of look at games, usually look at some sort of GSL or Esports TV. WCS, which is a World Championship Series. It's a Blizzard-sponsored event. You have DreamHack, which is a European series of events. Acer Team Story Cup, where they pick some of the high-level teams and play against each other. And then there's Nation Wars, where you have players from different countries play on the basis of which country they're from. And that's kind of the